mean, I think that intellectually, uh, the combination of the two organizations doesn't necessarily make much sense. And that's not to say that one organization or the other was doing better work, but it is to say that they were doing distinctive work, you know. And you know, I guess technically speaking, the organizations never combined, right? So Discover Easton will still survive as a separate entity. In fact, what was done was in some ways worse. The one organization's money was taken and put into the other organization, you know, and theoretically making it insolvent. So, you know, I don't know that they've never gone on the record as saying that the organizations are, you know, combined now, but obviously the allocation of resources is in one direction. So, yeah, I think that, you know, overall, economic development work is different than community development work and needs to be, you know, funded in similar ways. And I don't necessarily think that, you know, there was a reason the town split them off years ago. And that's that it's just generally not successful when you have one group doing everything, especially in a town the size of Easton, right? So I genuinely don't think it was well thought out from the town's perspective. We still, you know, was it January 10th now? 9th, I don't know. But we still haven't received a reason from the town for anything. Our organization in 4 years had earned a reputation for being community-minded and community-first. And if we got heads in beds by doing that, because guess what? They're one and the same. People don't realize that, but it's one and the same, right? You have to foster your foundation first. You know, we never veered from that. And so, and it led to a lot of disagreements. It led to a very public disagreement, and we wouldn't back down from what we thought was right for the community, and what we thought the town thought was right until they didn't. But you know, that's kind of how it came about. I mean, I know it seems like it was eons ago, but this was brought on by, you know, mid-May when Governor Larry Hogan had called for towns to start using your public spaces for dining and the like, because not only did they see an indoor shutdown probably imminent, or it was going to continue, but they also saw, which was a very real truth, is that even when they were to reopen, people weren't going to be comfortable going back into these places. You know, when Dr. Wadley had confirmed to us as we were planning this process that they have shown preliminary data, which I'm not sure what it's been, if it's been updated, but 18 times safer to eat outside than inside. So, you know, the marketing side of me says people are going to hear that. They're not going to go back inside, you know, and maybe rightfully so. The town had set up this kind of phone call, this group that we were on it, EDC was on it, the town, a few others, and it was, you know, kind of what do we do, right? Like, what are we at? Everyone was at this point of, I mean, you got to remember that it was not even 2 months before this that we were still playing the St. Patrick's Day parade, right? And then that's canceled. And for me, it became very real when my neighbor across the street at Tidewater had furloughed or laid off staff. And that, to me, I don't know. I mean, that's a wake-up call to me, is that this is not a, you know, a short-term thing. So anyway, so early, you know, mid-May or so, we had this phone call. And, you know, it's downtown, so we take, you know, kind of the lead on it and say, we'll get together a plan for outdoor dining. And we created 2 plans. The first plan was weekend closures of Dover Street, Washington Street, part of Goldsboro, and Federal for dining, and Westover for dining. And then the alternative plan, if that wasn't going to be, it wasn't good, it was the parklet design, which ended up being what they used. And we had some internal meetings with the town about this, and they had some concerns, and you know, certainly the police were there and some others, and unfortunately engineering and public works wasn't involved in the beginning, but And so we went kind of back to the drawing board, and essentially what came out is that it was going to be too expensive to have a weekend closure. So they needed us, either a 7-day-a-week closure or something of that sort. Because they couldn't, the expense was going to be in, Easton has ever since the Nice, France attacks, Easton has had a policy in place, either formally or informally, that says if there's people in a closed street, there needs to be a barrier that could stop a moving vehicle. So unlike Annapolis or other towns that just put essentially pedestrian barriers up, Easton has to put barriers up that have real manpower to move, essentially. So water-filled barriers like they used, or vehicles they use, like Easton Utilities vehicles for waterfowl. So sensible policy, but it causes it's expensive to do, obviously. So we had gone back and forth for a couple weeks on some plans and had a lot of meetings about this, and a lot of elected officials and businesses. And so we submitted a final plan, which was, we knew that the federal street businesses didn't want to be a part of it. So it was just part of Dover. We talked to the banks about that, just part of Dover and Washington, where at least a decent amount of businesses were. And that got kind of shot down at the last minute and said, we just need 7 days. Like, we need 7 days a week. We can't use one-way streets. So it became Washington. Like, it became, that's the only option that we had from a food perspective. And so we submitted that plan Thursday evening, and they put it before the council Monday. So, it was, it was a very quick turnaround. Quicker than we had ever seen. Usually, to even be considered, you have to submit something a week and a half ahead of time. So, but anyway, I think that there was an urgency, and I understand that. There was a political urgency to doing something, because in this time that we were making all these proposals, Frederick had done something, Baltimore had done something, Chestertown had done something, Cambridge was doing something, right? You had all these towns that were figuring it out, and the optics were that we weren't. Anyway, it was approved on Monday, and the truth is that a lot of businesses knew about previous plans, because before we submit plans to the town, we're talking them through with as many impacted retailers as we can. A lot of businesses didn't know about Washington Street because, again, we submitted it on Thursday and they said, okay, we're putting it on Monday, so we didn't have time to talk to everyone about it before we got to it. Communication issue, partially on our fault, partially town, definitely. That Monday after 4th of July, they closed it. We weren't allowed to start anything until Thursday. And that's when, so they had some private meetings Monday and Tuesday with a concerned developer, and then Wednesday they had this public meeting, and it was kiboshed. And our issue with this whole thing is that this was a very collaborative process the whole time until it wasn't, right? And so again, all that being said, it's one project that we had a disagreement on in the final hour of it. I don't know why that project meant the death of our organization. I don't understand that, and I'm not gonna, everyone can theorize, and that's, I'm not gonna jump onto that. It was a circumstance. It doesn't define the people that made those decisions. And overall, it was a great time in Easton. And I still think, that Easton has the best foundation for, a business owner that wants to come in and do great work. The great work that Tim Kirkton's doing with Rise Up, but I would say look at them as an example for what Easton has to offer. He's building his HQ here in Easton, right? He's adding Rude Barbecue and Rude Burger here in Easton. He's investing in this community for a number of reasons, but he is not doing it just out of the goodness of his heart. He's doing it as a great place to run a business. It really is. And there's great foundation here. The town has, as big as it is, has a lot of room for positive momentum and movement forward still. And I believe that we were on that track. That's not to say that someone else can't do it, but I'm excited to continue to work with Chesapeake Music and next door at Top Interfaith Shelter on the boards, and my work as a commissioner in Hillsborough, and it's been a great 4 years, and I'm hopeful, not to steal from your neighbor Richard Marks, but I'm hopeful that I think Easton has such a significant amount of potential, and the incorrect decisions of a few are not going to change that, right? And so I think it's going to continue in that direction, and there's a lot of good work being done. So I hope I get a chance to be a part of it at some point, but it'll continue.